Okay, can someone please confirm if you are able to hear me,
Yes,
view
sir.
me, and see me? Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thanks for the confirmation. So let's get started with the discussion. Okay, so we started our discussion with Article 17 in the Constitution. Now, despite the constitutional mechanisms we still have in the society a huge amounts of untouchability, or we have huge amounts of, you can say, the discrimination which are related to caste, and which are still prominent in Indian society. Again, it is prominent not only in Hindu society but also in almost all religions which are there in Indian subcontinent. That is the irony. Okay, like for example, the Islam, in nowhere in the world they have the caste system or hierarchies. But the same Islam, when it is being practiced in South Asia, we are having caste hierarchies. Okay, like if you see the castes like Buddhism, the Buddhism itself has started as a response to the Varna system which is there in the society. But over time, what happened is the Buddhism was became part of Hindu cultures. Now, this and all, like which seems to be a very ironical, okay, in India. Like if you see about the emergence of Sikhism, even Sikhism started as a response to the inequalities, hierarchies which are there in society. Okay, but today the Sikhism also has the hierarchical setup. Now, this is, as I told, this is the irony in Indian society. Okay, not in Hindu society. The caste system is there in almost all communities, all religions which are there in India. Now, uh, uh, we were discussing about what are the different constitutional mechanisms which are there to ensure that there are equalities which would provide prevail in the society. Okay, now this is Article 17 is one such important article which will talk about social change. Okay, so that is why scholars call Indian Constitution not only a document of politics but also an instrument of social change. So sometimes you might get a question like Indian Constitution, how far Indian Constitution is an instrument of social change. Okay, so maybe you can quote Article 17. Okay, in that, because no constitution in the world talk about changing or reforming the society, because constitution across the world are focused on political system, but Indian constitution also focuses on social changes. Okay, now this is something which is very unique in the case of Indian political, okay, Indian constitutional setup. Okay, so any questions still here, or we can move on? Now we were discussing that we have two important laws made by the parliament to eradicate or to make the untouchability as a punishable offense. And the two laws are PCRA 1976 and POA Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Now, despite, okay, first of all, what are the provisions of these two acts which are there? I hope like we discussed PCRA 1976. Can someone quickly sum up what are the provisions of PCRA? Anyone?
It was made a non-compoundable offense
Very good.
and
Untouchable,
also a cognizable offense.
cognizable offense. Very good. Perfect. So, in PCRA 1976, earlier there was an act called Untouchability Abolition Act. If you want, you can make a note. Otherwise, I'll put it in the chat. There was an act which is called Untouchability Abolition Act 1955. Now, this particular act, the provisions were not as much stringent. The provisions were made very much stringent because even after India became a republic, the constitution came into force since 1950s. So even after almost like 25, 30 years, the situation at the ground level is not changing. Now, what used to happen is maybe in the villages, the Dalits were not allowed to cast their votes also. Okay, many times on their behalf, someone used to go because if they touch the caste or if they, you can say, touch the election booth or those things, it would become impure. Okay, now this is what like the mindset of the people of those times, and because of that, they were not allowed to come to the public places, including the you can say the polling booths or anywhere related to the public offices, even till today. Okay, there are, you can say, reports, there are, you can say, news. You can often see that in this particular village, a Dalit was not allowed into this particular place, or a group of Dalits were killed by the caste Hindus. Now, these are something which you can see often in the news. Now, this is the reason why the PCRA was made more stringent, but still there are challenges in the society. PCRA was not able to tackle the challenges in the society. That is where a much more stringent act, that is POA, has come into picture. POA 1989, SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. So this is in news. Okay, this particular act is in news. Maybe you might get a question. Analyze the recent Supreme Court verdict. Okay, I think we discussed this one, right? In 2018, Supreme Court gave a ruling that anticipatory bail is
No.
applicable. No, we did not discuss.
Yeah, we did.
We discussed, right? Okay. So
Mandatory arrest is not needed for government servants.
government servant, very good. Okay, and also the permission of superior is needed. If prima facie this complaint looks like a mala-fide offense, okay, a mala-fide of you can say complaint, then police need not act upon. And this act also calls for compensatory justice. This is one of the few acts in India where we have compensatory mechanism. Okay, so this particular question can come up in your exam, like analyze the recent verdict of Supreme Court on POA 1989. Can it be considered as judicial activism? Maybe UPSC has this habit of interlinking 2-3 topics. Okay, most of the times they are asking the interlinking topics. So how can you evaluate, or how can you link this particular act or the Supreme Court ruling to that of judicial activism? Okay, so because the law says something by the Supreme Court interpreted in a different way, why not it leaves to the wisdom of the parliament? Okay, because of the Supreme Court acting upon this ones, okay, acting upon this one, we can see the Dalit intellectuals, there has been a huge controversies which has been raised. And I hope you know that across the country there were protests by the Dalits and the Dalit groups, and what their demand is. See, first you are making a complaint, later it is being withdrawn. It does not mean the complaint is false. It does not mean the complaint is false. Most of the times, those people who are complaining, they might be intimidated, they might be allured, or they might be threatened. And this is the reason they are taking their complaints back. Now, this is one argument. Again, when you're writing your answers, do not only say that this is good. Okay, definitely there are cases of misuse. Definitely there are a lot of cases of misuse. But if the act is misused, the solution is not in repealing the act. Okay, I hope you got the point. For example, if a law, let us take a law is misused. Okay, does not mean you have to repeal the law. If you keep on repealing the law, if you eliminate the law, then we'll end up with nowhere. Okay, because if you see, almost all the laws in India are misused. For example, take the case of IPC. That is the most misused act in India. Okay, because IPC is misused, a police official is misusing IPC, does not mean you are repealing entire IPC. Okay, if a official is misusing CRPC, does not mean you have to repeal CRPC. It means that you have to plug the loopholes of the particular law. Repealing the law is not the solution. Okay, definitely there are cases of misuse of POA. Definitely there are cases of misuse of PCRA. And in fact, as I told, one of the most misused acts in India is Domestic Violence Act. Okay, Section 498A. Okay, if even there is a lot of cases of misuse, does not mean law has to be repealed. You have to plug the loopholes in the misuse of the law. And those people who are misusing it should be punished accordingly. The solution is not in repealing the law just because there is a misuse of the law. Now this is what you have to write your answers upon. So try to find out like what are the positives of Supreme Court ruling and what are the negatives of Supreme Court ruling, and make your answer very lucid, like 4 points here, 4 points here. That's it. Okay, that should cover your topic on Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Okay, again I'm not going into deeper into this act. Okay, Now, you might get a question like, what are the challenges of untouchability? Again, the same question can be asked in your history paper, in your ethics paper, okay, in your essay paper. Your approaches has to be different. But if the same question of untouchability is coming in your GS2 paper, your approach has to be different. Okay, I hope like it's very clear. Like if it is coming in GS2, what you have to write? Mostly write about constitutional provision, the laws, okay, then Supreme Court judgments, okay, the judicial interpretations of the Constitution and the Act, and write out about committees and commissions recommendations, and write the ministry. Which ministry is protecting the interests of scheduled caste? Is there a ministry?
Minority.
No. Minorities for religious minority. Ministry of Minority Affairs.
Social justice.
Yeah, social justice. Very good.
Okay.
Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. I hope in vulnerable sections we saw this one. Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment is having three important, you can say, vulnerable sections to be protected. Okay, one is scheduled caste. What are the other two?
Disabilities.
Yeah.
Person with disabilities.
Person with disabilities, differently abled, and the last?
Scheduled tribe.
No. For tribes, there is a ministry, Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Ministry of Tribal Affairs. There is a separate ministry.
Women and child.
Women, there is separate ministry, Ministry of Women and Child Development. Come on, what is this section? It is for
OBC.
not exactly. It is for elderly, the senior citizens. Okay, now Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, like it takes care of three sections: scheduled caste, then differently abled and elderly sections of society. Okay, now all the three are being taken over by Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Okay, now maybe in your governance aspect you might get, despite various constitutional provisions, laws, schemes, okay, and Supreme Court judgments, why there is still practices of untouchability in India. Okay, the similar questions can be asked in your essay paper also, or in your ethics paper or society paper. Okay, these topics are very broad. It can be asked in multiple papers. So, but be prepared when you are uh, discussing this one in your polity paper. You have to focus on these aspects rather than the other aspects. Any questions till here? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the, okay, before moving on to the next this one, so again I think I have shown you this slide. So the challenges which are there in the society, again this POA, let me zoom this particular portion. Okay, this is a Supreme Court's verdict in 2018, which caused for a lot of these ones. Okay, riots, protests across the country. Sorry, why the Supreme Court has said so? The Supreme Court has its own set of arguments. Okay, now moving on to the next article in the Constitution, Article 18 of the Constitution. It deals with abolition of titles. Abolition of titles. Okay, like the article is pretty obvious. Okay, pretty straightforward. It says that no title or okay shall be conferred by the state except for military honors and academic distinctions. These two can be given by the states. Then the citizen of India, again, if a citizen of India cannot accept any titles from foreign countries, that is, even if you get any prize, okay, or any award or any decoration from the foreign countries, it should not be accepted without the permission of the President of India. Without the permission of the President of India, it is not permissible to take, even if you get a Nobel Prize. Okay, you have to take and inform the government of India, take the permission of President. When we say President, it is Prime Minister plus Council of Ministers. Then only this can be accepted. Okay. Any idea what is the highest civilian award in India? Bharat
Bharat
Ratna.
Ratna. Bharat
Okay.
Ratna. Bharat
Bharat
Ratna.
Ratna. Any highest civilian award in Pakistan? Anyone knows? What is the highest civilian award? It is in news. Come on, you should be knowing the at least in the neighboring country.
They gave that award to the separatist, I know.
Don't know the name, but it is like Islamic codes.
Okay. Obviously, it should be Islamic code, and it is in Pakistan. Okay. Any other?
So they gave that to the Kashmir,
Mhm.
the separatist, no?
Yeah. It was given to Gilani.
Nishan.
Very good. Yeah, it was given to Gilani, so that is why it is in news. Okay, he was a separatist. Okay, it is called Nishan-e
Nishan
Pakistan.
Pakistan.
It is Nishan-e Pakistan. It is the highest civilian award in Pakistan. Any Indian got this award? Any Indian got this award? Any idea?
Gilani will be getting.
No, you cannot. This one. Any Indian got this Nishan-e Pakistan? Okay, only one Indian got. He was Morarji Desai. Okay, Morarji Desai was the only Indian who got the highest civilian award in Pakistan. Now, what happens is most of the times these awards are not only based on, you can say, academic or military distinctions, but rather they are often politicized. They are often politicized. Now, why this has been made in the constitution is during the British Raj. Okay, now what is the actual reason for having this one is during the time of British Raj, what they used to do is some people they used to claim as that means they are the loyalists to the Raj, to the British Empire. So to the British Empire, those people who are loyal, the British government used to confer them with some awards. Now, what is the rationale of these awards? It is not for their academic capabilities, rather to identify people who are loyal to British Empire and to identify those who are rebel. Okay, there will be always rebel candidate like Nehru or Bhagat Singh or Gandhi. Okay, so for these people to just to identify them who are loyal, who are not loyal, they used to confer these titles. For example, knighthood. I hope you know that knighthood. British government.
Yes, sir. Who have awarded the knighthood? They are called the sir.
Yeah, sir. Very good. Okay, which Indian recently got this knighthood? Anyone? Okay, Indians cannot get today because it has been abolished under Article 18. Okay, now what is this one? What exactly is this one is? That means those people who were loyal to the British Empire, they used to identify them. For example, Gandhi also has got one award from British Empire. Can anyone tell me which award Gandhi got?
Kesar
Kaiser
Hind.
Hind. Very good. Okay.
For the boring
Yeah,
something.
yeah. It was a war called Boer War in South Africa. For his participation in Boer War in South Africa, he was awarded the Kaiser Hind Award. Now, during the Jallianwala Bagh incident, after the Jallianwala Bagh incident, so Indians were not happy with British. Okay, obviously, because of that, they returned all these awards. Like Gandhi returned Kaiser Hind, Rabindranath Tagore returned knighthood. Okay, because of the British attitude towards India. Now, what happened is like these titles are often used for political purposes, to meet their political purposes, to ensure that there is those people, not some people who are politically important or not important or dangerous. Just to identify these people, they were using the awards. That is the reason when constitution came into force, they said that government should not give any titles. Government should not give any titles. In fact, there was one case which happened in 1996. I'm just putting it in the chat. It is called Balaji Raghavan versus Union of India, case 1996. Now, in this particular case, it challenged that Indian government gives a lot of awards, the civilian awards. Okay, I hope like you know that Indian government gives a lot of civilian awards. Can someone tell me what are the civilian awards apart from Bharat Ratna?
Kirti Chakra.
Civilian.
Padma Shri.
Yeah, Padma awards. I hope you know that. Okay, Bharat Ratna, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, Padma Shri, all these awards. Now, the reason for giving these awards, most of the times it is for their academic distinctions, but sometimes they would be politicized as well. Okay, that means they could be politicized as well. So this is the reason the Balaji Raghavan case, 1996, it challenged the validity of national awards because they are inconsistent with Article 18. Now here Supreme Court gave some ruling. It said that these are awards only for academic distinction. These are the awards which are only for academic distinction, and there is nothing wrong in giving these awards. But however, Supreme Court has laid down the guidelines saying that these awards should not be used as suffixes or prefixes to the names of the person. Okay, these awards cannot be used as suffixes or prefixes to the names of the person. Like you cannot call a person with Padma Shri, the name Padma Shri with the name. It cannot be used as prefixes or suffixes. If it is used, it would be forfeited by the government. Okay, the award would be taken back by the government. So the Padma awards or the civilian awards, Bharat Ratna, they do not violate Article 18 because they are as per Article 18 only. You cannot use them as titles. This is something which was given. Okay, and the recent thing which you can correlate to this one is the award wapsi. Heard of this one? The issues of award wapsi. People were returning their awards to the government. Okay, because after the Modi government took over the power, so some scholars believed that scholars ideally have to be neutral. Okay, when we are talking about scholars are to be politically neutral. That means they should not be having political biases. Just like bureaucrats, the scholars should also be politically neutral. That means, but that is something not happening in India. Many of the scholars are tilted towards Congress, or some are tilted towards BJP. Now this becomes very obvious not only in scholars but also bureaucrats also. Okay, ideally bureaucrats or judiciary should be politically neutral, either Congress in power or BJP in power. It should not hamper their, you can say, whatever the public delivery system they are into. But most of the times what happens is BJP has its own set of bureaucrats, Congress has its own set of bureaucrats. Whenever the government changes, a lot of IAS and IPS transfers happen. Have you noticed this? Mostly at the state level and at the union level also. Whenever the government changes, the bureaucrats would be reshuffled. Okay, simply put, those people who would be loyal or expected to be loyal would be kept with the government, and those people who might obstruct, they would be transferred to Andaman and Nicobar. Have you noticed this? This is something which happens again and again whenever the government changes. Now, this award wapsi is something which is there in news. So they said like the government is not giving on scholarly basis or academic basis, but rather giving them on political basis. Now there are many examples, many examples where Bharat Ratna has been politicized, whereas leave about the highest civilian awards, even Bharat Ratna was not exempt from criticism. Okay, a lot of criticisms there, but I don't think that would be relevant. Maybe in your personality test, okay, these issues could be asked. What is your this one on the award of WAPSI? Should it be there? Should it not be there? First of all, should the civilian award should be there or not? Okay, these kind of questions you can expect. Okay, and okay, and coming to the other prizes, like I hope like you know that Nobel prizes. Okay, how many Indians got Nobel Prize?
Uh, 6 to 7 members.
Okay, so yeah, you can make a note if you want. Okay, so the different Indian Nobel Prize laureates. Okay, some are Indian by birth. Okay, some are not Indian by birth, but they are having Indian connection. That is, they are somewhere connected to India. For example, Mother Teresa, she is not an Indian by birth. Dalai Lama is not an Indian by birth. Okay, Muhammad Yunus, he is from Bangladesh, but they were born in British India or some kind of Indian connection they are having. Okay, for example, these people are NRIs. Okay, Venkatramanan, Ramakrishnan, or I think the recent Abhijit Banerjee. Okay, economics Nobel. Okay, so try to find out like who are the Nobel prize winners. V.S. Naipaul is not from India. Okay, but he's an Indian, a person of Indian origin. PIO. Okay, so try to find out like what exactly are their contributions. At least you should be able to write maybe 100 words about each of them. At least the Nobel prize winners. Okay, what is their contribution? What exactly they have done? Can someone quickly tell me? Tagore, maybe 2-3 points. Important points.
National song.
National song of.
Anthem. Sorry,
Mhm.
anthem.
Okay, Tagore accidentally wrote two national anthems. Okay, one is for India, one is for Bangladesh. Then anything else? Any other contribution of Tagore?
Famous literature, the home in the
Mhm.
world. In Bengali word, it is called as a
Okay.
Gombere.
Very good. Any other? Any other literary works of Tagore? Gitanjali. Okay,
Gitanjali.
okay. At least
Gitanjali.
some 100 words you should be in a position to write only about Tagore. Okay. Then Amartya Sen, can quickly tell me what are contribution?
Indian
Okay.
economist.
Economist. What exactly was this work? Anyone?
I think the name was Justice something.
Okay.
It's called.
Human development.
Human development
theory.
theory, human development, the measurement of human development index. Okay, very good. And Venkatramanan Ramakrishnan. Which field? Chemistry. Okay, but what is his contribution? Okay, try to find out. Make a list of all Indian Nobel Prize winners. Maybe you can take as a small assignment. Okay, again, this is all your 6th class current affairs, not more than that. Okay, so you should be able to recollect all these things when you're writing your exam. So you can quote them. Again, when you're writing something about child rights, you can always quote Kailash Satyarthi. When you're writing about something about literature, you can always quote Rabindranath Tagore. Again, this would be very much helpful in your answer writing. Okay, so if you're talking something about India-China relations, always you can quote the contribution of Dalai Lama and what is the Tibetan issue. If you're talking something about social service or something, you can quote Mother Teresa. If you're talking about science and technology in India, okay, before independence and after independence, you can quote all the scholars, okay, or those people who got Nobel Prize. So all these are very much helpful in your answer writing itself. So try to develop that habit. 200 words about each of these. 200 words, at least 200 words. You should be in a position to write 200 words. If not 200 words, at least 100 words. Okay, try to get that, develop that competency. Okay, so nothing much in Article 18. Any other questions?